Hi, 6th grade Success Center. This is our video for the week of May 11th through the 15th. I hope you're having a good day. I'm glad you came to visit me. And I want you to grab some supplies for me. You need a pencil. You're going to need your paper pack that I sent back with you. And you need to turn to page 92. So if you don't have those supplies, go grab those and come right back. Now, I'm going to go ahead and circle this because this is the page we're working on today. I need to also let you know this is our last video for this school year. I hope that you have a great junior high year. I'm going to miss you guys. But this is our last video for Success Center. And we've been studying rates, ratios, and percents. And we have something special that goes with those each time, don't we? We have a thinking box that we've been using. And in this thinking box, it's nothing magical. It just keeps us on track. So what we're going to do today is we're going to keep that in mind. If we're having trouble organizing whether I'm going to multiply here or divide there, set it up in your little thinking organizer, and it's going to probably help you get through. Now, on my thinking organizer, I'm going to put mine over here each time, and let's go ahead and remember that we have some cube strategies that we're going to go through today. We're going to use all of those strategies as we work through our problems today. We never work a problem unless we think it out first, organize it in our head. Let me pull up a little skinnier pen here, and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, hope everybody's already on page 92. We have 5 problems on this page. I'm not sure if we'll get to all 5, but we'll see. When 20 minutes gets here, we'll find out. Okay, this says, Fam is saving money to buy new headphones. The headphones cost $200, but she has saved only 45% so far. How much more money does Fam need to save to buy the headphones? All right, so if we're looking through here, let's just understand what we need, okay, or what we know. We know that the headphones, okay, so headphones cost $200, but she has only saved 45%. So has she saved the whole thing? No, she hasn't. So she doesn't have that whole $200. It says, how much more? Okay, and usually that is a clue for subtracting, okay, or a difference. Like you're here, but you might need to go here. So how much more money does Fam need to save to buy the headphones? So she wants to buy those headphones. I already saw a percent here. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the percent box that we usually use. So we come over here, I draw up my box, and you can label this out here either part and whole, or if you wanted to, you could put, saved or not saved, or, whatever. But I'm going to put part and whole this time. So part and whole. And I know in the whole, for the percent, I always put mine right over in the corner. So I kind of keep a routine doing that. Okay. So do we know anything else that we can fill out here? Well, let's look through the problem. Okay, I'm doing this first one with you if you haven't noticed, in case you forgot. We have 45%. Well, of course, we're going to need to put that above the 100 because we always stack the percents above and below each other. So part, she has saved part, which is 45%. The whole thing is 100%. Now, I know that we're talking about money here, so I'm going to put the money sign there or the dollar sign there. And do we know the part that she needs to save? No. We need to know the saved. We need to know how much more she needs to get, okay? So if we do this, let's look here. The headphones cost $200. right? Well, we need to know what 45% of that $200 is. So here we go. How do we solve? I'm going to change my pen colors here. We would take and we multiply the things that are across from each other and we divide by what's left over. Come over here, 200 times 45, and I am going to just do a shortcut way. I know this is a 2-digit times a 3-digit, and you can do it out the long way, but I do know that I see 2 zeros back behind here. So I know my final answer is going to have 2 zeros. So I'm going to write those down automatically. And if I do that, all I'm left with is a 2 times a 45. I happen to know that 2 times 45 is 90. So then I have that is 9,000. Now, I have to take this 9,000 and divide it by 100. But do you remember the trick to that? If I'm dividing by 100, I'm just going to put my little divide sign here. I'm not even going to set up a long division sign. Do you remember last week what we talked about? Look at this. If I'm dividing by 100, I can take and say, that's simply moving a decimal. And I'm going to take off 2 zeros here, take off 2 zeros here, which is basically moving the decimal back 2 places. Then I have the answer of a 9 and a 0, or a 90. And that's on here, but that's not the answer. I'm going to put this answer right here. $90 is 45%. She's raised or she's saved $90, but that's not how much more money she needs to save. Notice how you have to see everything in the problem. Well, now we have to take a third step. This was a solid 3-step problem, and I have to figure out, okay, 200 is what she needs. 90 is all that she saved. And now there needs to be some subtracting. So 0 minus 0 is 0. I'm not going to be able to say 0 minus 9, so we come over here and have to do some regrouping and borrowing. 10 minus 9 is 1. And our answer is $110. Now, I wanted to do this one with you to show you that just because you're a hot shot at this box doesn't mean they're not going to throw something else at you in one of these problems. So is it very important that you notice and underline and do your cube strategies, okay? So we're going to come down here and I'll help you kind of set this one up and then you can work through it. So this is number 2 on page 92, and it says, David's living room wall and bedroom wall are shown below. So we take a look here, living room wall, bedroom wall. What percent of the height of the living room wall is the height of the bedroom wall? Let's understand what we're talking about, okay? We're given 2 separate rooms, okay? So we understand that. We're given some dimensions, which means it's length and widths. Okay? And so we have this. What percent, okay, so what percent, that's what we're going to be finding, is the percent. So I'm going to need, I know I'm not making little circles for those, but that's kind of hard with my pen here. What percent of the height of the living room wall is the height of the bedroom wall? Well, when we're talking about height, we're talking about how high. So as we look at these pictures, we're going to have to assume that the height is going to be the one that's up on the standing up part, and this would be the width. And so that's how far along it is, okay, or how wide it is. Now, I need for you to set up this problem. I've helped you a little bit figure out what your numbers are. Pause the video, come right back after you've done it, and see which one of these answers you have. So right now, pause and solve. Okay, did you work it out? If you look right here, I have my thinking box, and let me show you how I set mine up. I have the bedroom wall here and the living room wall here. And so my bedroom wall is 9 feet high, but I don't know what percent of that would be compared to the living room wall. And since we were comparing it to the living room wall, that was 12, and it would be going along with our 100% because that's what it was being. The bedroom wall was being compared to the living room wall. And so we come down here, we circle what's diagonal, divide by the leftover. So 9 times 100, we have an easy way to do that, 900. And then we just divide 900 by 12 and we get 75. And looky here, 75% is one of our answers. Okay, let's go over to number 3. And we're going to do our cube strategy on it. So let's think through it. Doug spent $12 on a ticket to the county fair. He now has 60% of his original amount of money remaining. How much money did Doug originally have? Let's go over. Let's do some cube strategies on this, okay? Let's find out what we know. Well, he spent $12. Okay, that means he doesn't have it anymore on a ticket. Okay, if we want to even underline that, he spent that on a ticket. He now has, that's what's in his pocket right now, 60% of his original amount. So he must have had more money if he only has 60% now. He had some more money at one time, didn't he? So our question says, how much money, so how much money did Doug originally have? Means what he started with. All right, now it's your turn. I want you to think through the problem. I helped you with the cubes. Now, pause the video, work the problem, come right back when you're done. Okay, I wonder if you had problems on this one. This one was a little bit different. Remember how I said you had to really pay attention now? Now that we're hotshots at being able to do these boxes, you know, here, sometimes they may throw something a little extra in. Well, that's what they did here. So let me show you what happened. Okay, so if I set up my box right here, I have what he spent is $12. Now, it told what he now had in his pocket, but that's not what he spent. So you had to be really careful to be able to know that you can't put what they put in the problem here. You couldn't put 60 here. That's not what he spent. That's what he had left from his original amount. So he has 60% of his money in his pocket, but that's not what he spent. So we have to take a 100% minus what he has in his pocket, and 40% of his money is what was spent on the ticket. Okay? Now, when we set that up, we know that we need to find his original amount or his starting amount. So I put O for original, S for spent. Did the math, 12 times 100. We know how to do that one. It's 1,200. Divide by the leftover, and you get 30. So do you see how tricky these might get? And I bet you might have had a little bit of problem on that one. Okay, so beware. These get a little tricky sometimes. Let's do number 4. Daniel has 250 songs on his MP3 player. 95 of the songs are by the same singer. What percent of Daniel's songs are by that one singer? Don't start on anything until you've done your cubes, okay? He has 250 songs, so that's important to know. 95 of the songs are by the same singer. I'm going to go ahead and come out here and I'm going to make sure. I like to see numbers that are written as words as a digit, okay? So 95 are by the same singer. Now, this is asking us what percent. This is what I'm trying to find. So I'm going to go ahead. Well, this is what I need to do. I need to try to find this right here. What percent of Daniel's songs are by that one singer? So be careful. pick through the problem, figure out what you know, solve it, come right back, and let's see how you've done. Pause now. Okay, did you work out the problem? Let's look and see how I did it. You might have done it very similarly. So I decided to label this part in whole. I knew that the whole amount, or the total amount of songs on his MP3 player are 250. So I put that with 100%. That's all of his songs. But 95 of them are by that one singer. So what percent is that? So basically, I'm finding percent, aren't I? And we solve this the same way. Take the two things that are diagonal and then divide it by the thing that's left over. And so I did, and I wrote 9,500 and 250 here. But if you'll notice, I did that fast dividing thing that I'd been talking about last week. Marked out a 0 here. There was one I could mark out here as well. Couldn't do both of them, but I could do one. And then it's just left with 25 into 950. And if I do that whole thing, my answer is 38%. All right, so we're to our final problem here, and it's problem number 5 on page 92. 35% of the students in Mr. Remington's class are left-handed. If 7 students are left-handed, how many students are right-handed? Come in, let's do our cube strategy. Okay, so 35%, and I know I really like to see those words as numbers, so I'm going to just put that right over here. 35% of the students in Mr. Remington's class are left-handed. So these are the left-handed people. If 7 students are left-handed, so now they're telling us exactly what 35% is. They're telling us that 35% are 7 students. So we know exactly 7 is 35% of something, right? How many students are right-handed? We've thought through it. Pause the video, come right back, and let's see how you've done. So make sure, pause it, and then come back. All right, here we go. Last problem here. Now, once again, have to think through this very carefully. When I set up my problem over here, I knew that the left-handed students, which was like part of the class, so even if I wanted to say this could be part of the class, I could have labeled that P. But if I labeled this W, that means it's the whole class. So I have to be careful about solving this problem. So let's see how that works out. So I said left-handed people or all of the students. So I went through, I knew these numbers, so I did the diagonals, I multiplied together and I got 700 here, and then I divide by 35, which gave me 20. But keep in mind, 20 is all of the students. That can't be my answer here. I have to notice that it says how many students are right-handed. So I have the left-handed students and I have all of the students. How do I find out how many are right-handed? Well, I have to figure out what the difference between all of them, okay, and the left hands are, and I end up having to say 20 total students minus the left-handed students gives you the right-handed students. So these are the kids with right hands, or right with their right hand. And we would fill that in right here. We don't need to put anything after the decimal place because it's not necessary. And then you just fill in, whoops, that's not even what I meant to hit. You just fill in your bubbles with the right, that correspond to the right thing, and then you're ready to go. But once again, if you weren't careful, you might have stuck the number 20 over here. And that means that you didn't quite notice that, well, we have a part and a whole still. When we have 100% in here, that would have been 100% of the kids in the class. We only needed that little part that was right-handed. Those are kind of tricky today, weren't they? But these would have been the hardest type of percent problems. Well, I hope that you've had a good time learning a little bit more math. Like I said, sadly, this is our last video for this school year. I wish you well over the summer. Can't wait to see you roaming around in the junior high halls next year. And that's all I have for you. And I hope that you have a great rest of your week and a great summer. And until I see you again, bye-bye.